What's up, everybody? This is Stuff About Sports Overtime, presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. It's your boy Jerm, the Facebook felon, here with you on a Saturday on the Sound Machine. Today, we are going to cover Phillip Rivers, worthy or not worthy of the Hall of Fame. We're going to remember Hank Aaron, and we're going to go ahead and break down the contenders to the Los Angeles Lakers title, because I'll be honest with you, the Lakers look legit. They look somehow better than they did last year, and they're not even playing that good right now. So, once again, we are presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. Want to shout out Sound Machine for giving us this platform. I'm going to try to bring you some content that you don't hear on our regular show, Stuff About Sports, which can be found on YouTube. Give Us a Shot Network on YouTube, or our Facebook page at Stuff About Sports, and Instagram at Stuff About Sports. Enough of that. Let's get into it. Phillip Rivers recently retired. I had some thoughts on this. Everybody's happy for Phillip Rivers. They're showering him with all of this praise, and they're going to continue to do it while they're ushering him into retirement, and not only retirement, but apparently the Hall of Fame. And I'm here to tell you, as the voice of reason, that Phillip Rivers is not a Hall of Famer. In his long 17-year career, he's amassed a grand total of 8 playoff appearances and amazingly only 8 Pro Bowls. Super mediocre. He doesn't have a single All-Pro appearance in his 17 years, despite having multiple All-Pros on his teams like LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates, Antonio Cromartie, Sean Merriman, Lorenzo Neal, etc. He has impressive regular season stats. Don't get me wrong, but if you take into account that his teams are always down by a score, length of the field to go, no timeouts, I mean, a lot of his statistics can be attributed to garbage time. So let's take a look at his postseason career. Oh, wait. Phillip Rivers doesn't have a postseason career. He has no Super Bowl appearances. And yes, there are QBs in the Hall of Fame without Super Bowl appearances, like Dan Fouts, for example. But Fouts was statistically the best quarterback for years. Phillip Rivers has never been considered the best at any point in his career. And Phillip Rivers certainly isn't Dan Marino. He's not a transcendent passer, and he's not even Warren Moon, who's probably his closest comparison. But Warren Moon was elected as the first black quarterback into the Hall of Fame. He's a racial trendsetter. Phillip Rivers clearly does not fit that profile. So no, Phillip Rivers should not join the likes of Joe Montana and Peyton Manning in the Hall of Fame, but he can snuggle right up next to Carson Palmer and save a spot for Matt Ryan in the Hall of Very Good. Now, if you disagree with me, you can go ahead and hit me up on Instagram at Stuff About Sports. Now, NBA season has kicked off, and I had some thoughts on, 72-game season, quick turnaround from last season in the NBA bubble. We had a bunch of these COVID situations pop off, and it's hard to really grasp how Adam Silver was able to accomplish this, and how well some of these NBA teams are performing despite having to deal already with multiple games, multiple players out due to COVID protocols. Now, I'm not big on early season overreactions, but this season is unlike any other, and it's already clear cut who the real contenders to the NBA title are. And I'm going to start with the very first one, and that is the reigning, defending NBA champions, undisputed right now. It is the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the only thing that's truly going to stop the Lakers from repeating, even though I'm going to give you a couple teams in my head that could possibly do it in a 7-game series, is honestly the Los Angeles Lakers. And that's a cliche, but for some reason it seems more true than it ever has now. LeBron James is only averaging 24 points a game. That's his lowest since his rookie year. And I think he actually averaged more as a rookie. So it might be his lowest in his career. Anthony Davis, averaging a career low in points since his sophomore year. He's only averaging 21 points per game. Yet the Lakers are amazingly at 12-4, which is the best record in the NBA. They beat the Bucks last night. They actually lead the league in net rating, the efficiency, everything the Lakers are doing. And it's really because of the pieces they brought in. Somehow, through the grace of God, were able to put together, through some minor trades and some shrewd free agency moves, put together a really complete basketball team. the Lakers should be favored for the title as long as LeBron James is healthy for at least not just this year, but I'm talking the next 2, possibly 3 years. Now, I'm not sure how long LeBron James has left in the NBA. I would venture to guess he probably at his elite level that he's been playing at, probably another 3, maybe 4 years. I think it's time for the Lakers to slowly transition into Anthony Davis' team. It was kind of like that last year. I felt that Anthony Davis didn't get the credit he deserved. I thought he was the best player on the Lakers, but LeBron, when the chips were down and they needed somebody to put the team on their back, it was LeBron at the end of the day. So it's not a surprise that the Lakers are the best team in the NBA. And I don't even think we've seen them at their best. So they haven't even reached their final form. We'll find out what happens. But I'm here to talk about who actually can contend with the Lakers. And to me, it's only 4 teams. It is the Clippers, the Sixers, the Nets, and the Bucks. And then I'm cheating here, but it's my list. I have a surprise team that I'll reveal at the end. All right. We'll start with the team that the Lakers just beat, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. I think they're 11-5 as we speak right now, and I'm recording this on a Friday. And so the Lakers beat the Bucks yesterday, which would have been Thursday, 125 to 123. It was a close game. I mean, that's the type of game that I would say, wow, the Bucks actually have the firepower, which I didn't believe a week ago, that could contend with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Giannis, to me, is an all-world talent who is not the best player on a championship team. To me, he is like Shaquille O'Neal without Kobe. He needs a Kobe Bryant to clutch up the games for him, because I don't think Giannis is capable. I think his skill set is limited. He is a young player still, but I think his style is built for carrying the game to a certain point. He just needs that one player to hit the big shots, to clear out the lanes, to basically be a diversion for Giannis to take the pressure off him. He doesn't have that. The chemistry with Drew Holiday isn't there yet, and maybe in the next few weeks it'll start to form. I don't think Drew Holiday is the quote-unquote Kobe Bryant. I'm not saying that in skill. I'm just saying that in terms of fit and how he could work. Now, Drew Holiday can hit shots. He's a decent shooter. He can create space. He can create his own shot. I am a big fan of Drew Holiday, but Giannis needs somebody, a Bradley Beal, I would say. I know a couple years ago they thought Eric Bledsoe would be that guy, and he's not. He's just not that guy. All right, moving on to my next contender. It is my hometown, home team, Philadelphia 76ers. Yes, the Sixers, the best team in the East right now. I think they absolutely can beat the Lakers. Now, I know a lot of you are rolling your eyes. A lot of you are calling me a homer. And yes, I'm being a homer right now, but I'm also thinking about it logically. The drop-off between Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid is what? Not much. And I would argue that Joel Embiid is an actual better one-on-one player than Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis can shoot maybe a little bit better than Joel Embiid, but Joel has a way better post game. I believe he is the better passer. He's the better one-on-one player. I think they cancel each other out at best for Anthony Davis's side. Ben Simmons, say what you want about his offense, he's not a scorer. So all of my Philadelphia 76ers fans who are out there in the world, sitting there, yelling, tweeting at Ben Simmons like schoolgirls, telling him to shoot, telling him to do this. Listen, you're a burger flipper. How about you go and be a doctor? No, you're a burger flipper. That's what you're good at, so that's what I want you to do, okay? You're asking him to do something that he's not good at, what he's never been good at. That's not what he's known for. Ben Simmons is a defensive savant. He is a facilitator. His job as the point guard is to make sure the offense is running, make everybody around him better. He creates so much. And that's really the biggest frustration that I have with not only just basketball fans, but Sixers fans who only are concerned with surface stats. When the James Harden sweepstakes was going on, everybody was clamoring for Philly. The Sixers fans were clamoring for James Harden, and I did not understand that. What about James Harden would come here, his ball-stopping, ball-hogging, insanely high usage rate makes you think that he would turn it around in Philly because what? There's good teammates here. He's had way better teammates in Houston and still couldn't make it work. If Chris Paul gives up on you as a teammate, then guess what, man? You're not a good teammate. I've always said that James Harden is one of the greatest offensive talents, and people like to use that terminology and then they get them intermingled. They did the same thing with Carmelo Anthony, and I've been saying for years that Carmelo Anthony is a supremely overrated basketball player, professional basketball player. He's a good basketball player. He's a street baller. If this was a one-on-one or a Big Three tournament or a street ball tournament out in Rucker Park, hell, I would pick James Harden and Carmelo Anthony. They'd be in the Street Ball Hall of Fame. But guess what? This is the big boy leagues. This is the professional leagues. And as professionals, they have always cared about the names on the back of their jerseys instead of the names on the front. So now the Sixers come in with a team philosophy. Doc Rivers comes in with a team philosophy. So why would James Harden be a perfect fit for Philly? It never made sense to me why people thought that. But I digress. The reason why I think the Philadelphia 76ers are legit contenders to the Los Angeles Lakers is purely matchups. We have shooters all over the court. We have a surprise bench player and a surprise rookie who may not get Rookie of the Year consideration because of how many minutes he plays, but he's absolutely going to be a starter. And there's some fantastic rookies. James Wiseman out in Golden State is fantastic. Tyrese Halliburton, fantastic. There's too many good rookies that are playing more prominent roles on their teams right now. Tyrese Maxey will never get the credit as a Rookie of the Year candidate, nor should he. You know, he's playing really well, and I think it's because he is the 21st overall pick. But if you watched him play, he's not the 21st best rookie that's come out of that draft class. That I'll say that. So you have Seth Curry, who's averaging 17 points a game, playing more minutes than he ever has, playing more efficient than he ever has, all because Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid's there. And then we have the diamond in the rough, baby, Tobias Harris. All of you Tobias Harris haters need to keep the same energy you had all offseason. You were trying to get him traded. Him and Al Horford had to go. Hey, guys, if you hear that train behind me, I apologize. I'm going to try to edit it out, but it is what it is. But listen. Tobias Harris came through. He's averaging 7 more points at this point of the season than he did last season under Brett Brown. That is a direct correlation from the coaching, getting put back in his natural power forward position, and his comfortability in Doc Rivers' offense. So tell me, who's the third best player on the Lakers? Montrezl Harrell? Marc Gasol? Dennis Schroeder? I'll take Tobias Harris over all of them. I think Ben Simmons can defensively, I'm not going to use the words lock LeBron down, but he can lock LeBron down. I'll say it right now. Okay? Joel Embiid can outplay Anthony Davis. Like I said earlier, that's a push. So the X factor in this whole equation is Tobias Harris. Okay? Tobias Harris is averaging, 20-something points a game? Then you have Seth Curry averaging 17 points a game. And then you have Danny Green, who has championship pedigree, right? His shooting has improved. It started off slow, but you can't just ignore the fact that he is a clutch shooter. Once he gets hot, that is a difference between a game 3 or a game 4 elimination and extending the series to game 5 and potentially winning a game 7 or 6, whatever. So the Philadelphia 76ers to me are absolute contenders. We have a good bench. Dwight Howard, there's not enough good things in the dictionary that I could use to see how much of an impact and his transition from being a star player in the NBA down to basically a coach on the court, a team player, a role player, has been fantastic. Best backup center in the league, by far. So the Sixers are contenders. The Clippers. I'm going to say the Clippers are contenders because they have Kawhi Leonard, and that's the LeBron killer. LeBron is scared of Kawhi Leonard. I'll always say it. I go back to that playoff series against the San Antonio Spurs where LeBron looked back and saw Kawhi Leonard checking back into the game, and LeBron was visibly frustrated at the line because he knew that the claw was coming to clamp him down. So now, Paul George, pandemic P, preseason P. I've been tough on Paul George, but guess what? He's back. Paul George bike, I guess, maybe. I thought the Clippers were going to fall off after their trades. They're playing nice too. I can't hate on the Clippers. The only downside is we've said this story before. This is the same old story with the Clippers, but they have the second or third best record in the West. I can't, I'm not going to ignore how well they've been playing. Right now, I would say, again, much like the Philadelphia 76ers, everything's about matchups in the NBA. And I do think that the Clippers match up actually pretty well with the Lakers. So we shall see there. And then, of course, probably the next best favorite to the Lakers for the NBA title. The best team in New York, now the best team in New York. Even though it's a little bit closer than one may have thought at the beginning of the season. The Brooklyn Nets, man. Now, Harden clearly was not giving 100% to the Rockets. He was trying to force their hand. It looked like he was wearing a fat suit. And all of a sudden he dropped the fat suit once he got to Brooklyn. I don't know. He scored, less than 20 points in four straight games, which is crazy for him, for his output. So it's very hard to ignore what the Nets were able to pull off. And what they pulled off is not, you can criticize it, right? It's not devoid of any criticism. I don't know if I could have given up 8 first-round picks for one player. And then on top of it, you gave up 2 young, promising, good players. A potential star in Karis LeVert, and then a stalwart, a defensive stalwart, and a young big that is good, that is versatile in Jarrett Allen. You sacrifice depth in your future for a 2-year window because you only have Kyrie for 2 years. You only have Kevin Durant for 2 years. Now, I think Kyrie's in his upper 20s. He might be 28, 27, something like that. I'm not sure if Kevin Durant hit 30 and is in a 30. These ages escape me, but, he has to be in his 30s. James Harden's in his 30s. And James Harden only has 1 year left on his deal. There's not going to be enough money to go around. Kyrie's a wild card. He might be moving out to the, he might be moving out to the woods somewhere in South Dakota. Who knows what he's going to do. And then you have Kevin Durant, who looks like he's back to his best player in the NBA form, which is great to see because Kevin Durant's my favorite player currently in the NBA right now. He's great. I think he's awesome. He's unstoppable. So you give up those 8 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks, and then 4 pick swaps, which are going to be first-round picks because who would not do that? And the Nets do not own their first-round picks out until 2028. So your chance to win is right now. However, they've looked extremely impressive. Kyrie came back. They did drop a game to the Celtics, but, you're not going to count on 42-point games from Colin Sexton all year round. To me, that was an outlier. That wasn't really, and they still got to figure some things out. It'll be interesting to see who's going to take the last shot. There's 7 players in the NBA who have over a 30 or 25% usage rate in the NBA. The Nets now have 3 of them on their team, which is, you don't have to know basketball to know that there's not enough ball to go around for them and their role players that they have. And that's really what's going to stop the Nets unless they make a move. And I'm not saying they're going to trade Kyrie. I'm not going to say they're going to do anything like that, even though they should. There's no doubt that they have the best 3 players on the court at any given time. That's a given. What's going to screw them in the long run, and they're going to win a lot of games, but can that be carried over into the playoffs, right? Where there's a 7-game series. How much output can you have? Sure, you could probably sweep the 8th seed and then the 4th or 5th seed or whoever you play next, right? You could probably get away with outscoring them. But as the teams get better in the playoffs, particularly in the conference finals and then the NBA finals, by then, fatigue will set in. Now you have to rely on your bench. Whoops. The Brooklyn Nets gave up all of their assets. They're going to have to vet minimum dudes to death. And that's already slim pickings. So now that you're picking the scraps of the NBA's dropped rosters, I just don't think that formula that the Brooklyn Nets have is sustainable. Look at every big three in the modern era that has done essentially what Brooklyn has done. They couldn't get by because they didn't have depth, right? The Miami's big three were able to succeed simply because LeBron James was on that team, and that was the height of his powers. Miami LeBron is the best LeBron we'll ever see. I'll go to the grave with that. He legit was the best player in the world at that point. So we shall see. I think that was everybody. My surprise team now. Those were the four main that I see right now. Now things can change. I can come back here in a month and all of a sudden the Phoenix Suns are there or whoever, right? But my surprise team, and I've been watching a lot of this team particularly because they have my second favorite player playing in the league right now, and what I already think is the greatest white player of all time, and that's Luka Doncic. Listen, come at me. There ain't nobody that's as skilled as Luka Doncic is at his age. He's already advanced. Larry Bird, the only thing that he has on Luka Doncic is time. So, miss me with all that stuff. Luka Doncic is the most skilled white player I've ever seen. Now, the only reason I'm putting the Mavericks on this list is because right now we really don't know what this team is. They are sitting at 7-7. They did start at 2-4. So you're saying, Jerm, what are you talking about? Why the Mavericks? Well, they started off slow, did not have Kristaps Porzingis. Now he's back. They've been shooting better, right? They've now climbed into, I think they're number 6 now, but they're flirting with top 5 shooting teams. They're holding teams down. Their defense, now that Kristaps is there, is shooting up the charts. They're holding opponents to less than 100 consistently, right? Won a couple back-to-backs, and I do think they still have the best coach in the West. I think Rick Carlisle is the best coach in the West. So they're going to be schemed. We know that Luka Doncic is a bad man. We know Kristaps Porzingis is a unicorn. Defensively, how is the Lakers going to stop that? So I will have to keep my eye on the Mavericks, but I like what I see from them. I think that they are a legit contender right now. I think they will be a legit contender as the season progresses, but right now, the Nets, the Bucks, the Clippers, and the Sixers are the clear contenders. There are a couple other teams out there that are very interesting, but you can't argue what you've seen. The Sixers are still figuring it out, and that's clear. That's scary. But what's even more scary is that the Lakers are also just kind of coasting, and they clearly have another level that they can reach. So that will be the true test to see if these teams that I mentioned here today can actually dethrone the Lakers in the NBA. I want to end today's overtime on a somber note. Today we lost a legend. We lost an icon. We lost a king. Hammer and Hank Aaron died at the age of 86. That is Friday, January 22nd, 2021. And I could go on about him being second all time, with 755 home runs, second only to Barry Bonds, asterisk, maybe. I could go on to talk about him being first all time in RBIs, 2,297. I could go on about him being fourth all time with runs scored at 2,174. I could really go on about his unprecedented 25 All-Star nods. 21 All-Star games in a row or something crazy, right? NL MVP, World Series champ, 3-time Gold Glove, 2-time batting champ, which is crazy, and obviously Hall of Famer. But that wasn't really what made Hank Aaron special. Yes, he was a tremendous, insanely consistent baseball player, but it was the time that he did it and who he was as a black man. I mean, this hits hard for me as a black man myself. And he was just so great. He was just so larger than life, man. Like, just to see somebody so gentle go through the things that he had to go through is almost bewildering. You know, black people think they got it bad now. Imagine playing in a white sport at the time, dealing with all of the stuff that he had to deal with, from Jackie Robinson to Hank Aaron. It's still happening in some respects today. Obviously not nearly as exaggerated, but you know, some people just transcend cultural norms, right? Some people just stand out as genuinely great human beings. And Hank Aaron was one of those people. He was an inspiration to millions. It's hard. It's hard. You know, I watched his record-breaking home run. I can't exactly remember right now who he was playing when he broke the record. Right, basically, he was in the Deep South. I know that. And Vin Scully was calling the game. And when he hit it, when the crowd, and look it up. Obviously, you can go on YouTube and look up this stuff. But the crowd erupted, right? And you could see people. I mean, there was white people, there was a Native American run, all types of people were running and cheering, and you forgot where this was and who this was and what was the circumstance. And at that point, for me personally, and for anybody who's watching, you can't watch that and not come away with the feeling that racism is a complete, made up, fabricated, pointless and totally stupid concept. Because when Hank Aaron hit that 715th home run, it didn't matter that he was a black man. It didn't matter that it was a white man's record that he broke. It didn't matter that he was in the Deep South somewhere. They was just baseball fans. It was just, they all stormed the field and they all congratulated him, and they all were touching him and high-fiving him and hugging him and wanting to be near him. Because for that moment in history, those people who may have said the N-word to another black person or treated a black person differently, and black people may have felt a certain way, it didn't matter. None of that mattered at that time, because at that time they were only baseball fans enjoying a historical, magical moment. The icing on the cake was that he was a black man. That was, that moment, right? And I know, and it was weird. I remember reading an article saying that Hank Aaron was getting death threats up to and even after he broke that home run record. And I guarantee you some of those death notes came from somebody in that crowd, at least one. And I'm sure more than that. But you watch that clip, and people were just living in that particular moment, right? Vin Scully, the crowd, the crack of the bat, the home run, and the stoic look on Hank Aaron's face until he rounded third, and he was waving and he was doing all that stuff. But you could, once you finally were able to see his face, and he wasn't a guy that smiled often, considering everything that he had to deal with. You can't take that away from baseball fans, and you can't take that away from Hank Aaron. Obviously, his path was not easy. Probably not the path that Hank Aaron wanted to take himself. It wouldn't be a road that I'd want to take. I'll tell you that. I mean, he was forced to travel with bodyguards, and all types of death threats were made against him all the time, every game. Imagine that monotony. It's got to be like just like a saw to your leg everywhere you go. You want to play baseball, the game you love, the game you're paid to do, and you got to deal with getting snuck into a team bus or taking a totally separate team bus from your teammates. Had to sneak in and out of ballparks, staying in separate hotel rooms from the rest of his teammates. His children had to be given police protection because he was a black man, because of the color of his skin. Imagine that. The Braves actually had to hire off-duty police officers to hide in the crowd. to guard against anyone who would maybe try to make an attempt on Hank Aaron's life. That's an awful, lonely, painful path to greatness, and not one that I think a lot of people would endure. And that speaks to how powerful Hank Aaron was. So rest in peace, Hammer and Hank Aaron, the true king, a legend, an icon, and an inspiration to everybody. This was Stuff About Sports Overtime. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to try to bring it to you every week. I'm going to try to bring you some guests. I'll bring some clips from our Stuff About Sports show, which is what we do every Tuesday on YouTube at 8 o'clock. Find us on all the socials. We're on there. Thank you to Sound Machine. I'll check you guys out next week.